The rise and fall of a martial arts legend. Tony Jaa was once celebrated as the future of martial arts cinema, a force of nature whose arrival shook the action genre to its core. With raw strength, jaw-dropping stunts, and fight scenes that defied logic, he stunned audiences around the world. He wasn't merely an action star, he was a spectacle in motion, bending the laws of physics with every move. But just as his star was burning its brightest, something unexpected happened. At the height of his fame, Tony disappeared. The unstoppable icon stepped away from the spotlight, leaving behind a flurry of unanswered questions. Was it the overwhelming pressure of fame? A betrayal from within the industry? Or a personal choice no one could have foreseen? His once promising Hollywood trajectory came to a sudden, mysterious halt. What truly happened to Tony Jaa, the man who challenged gravity but couldn't outrun fate? The real story is more heartbreaking than most would imagine. And by the end, your view of him may be forever changed. From rice fields to the dream of cinema. Tony Jaa, born Tachakorn Yiram, was raised in Surin, a rural province in Thailand where farming and tradition were a way of life. His parents, Rinsapech and Thandi Yiram, were hard-working rice farmers who instilled strong values of perseverance and discipline in him. Yet Tony's dreams extended far beyond the rice paddies. Inspired by the martial arts legends he watched at temple fairs, Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, and Jet Li, he didn't just admire them, he aspired to become one of them. Unlike most children who simply idolized their heroes, Tony immersed himself in training, copying their movements with obsessive precision. In the fields near his home, he practiced relentlessly, kicks, punches, flips, until they became instinctive. For Tony, martial arts wasn't just combat, it was a disciplined art form, an expression of control and grace. At 10 years old, he began formal training in Muay Thai under the guidance of traditional temple masters. Without access to modern facilities, he relied solely on grit and commitment, forging the stamina and technique that would later define him. As a teenager, he began participating in local Muay Thai bouts, quickly earning a name for himself. Yet he wasn't drawn to the life of a professional fighter. Instead, he envisioned combining his martial skills with the magic of film, just as his heroes had done. A stuntman's journey. That chance came when Punna Ridikrai, a legendary stunt coordinator and filmmaker, recognized Tony's raw potential. He invited the young martial artist to join his stunt team, impressed by Tony's talent and drive. This marked a defining moment in Tony's life. Eager to prove himself, Tony threw himself into stunt work, spending the next 14 years taking on dangerous roles behind the scenes with little recognition. He performed incredible feats, from doubling major actors to leaping onto elephants in commercials, always pushing his physical limits and sharpening his abilities. His time as a stuntman was more than a test of physical endurance, it was a masterclass in filmmaking. Under Punna's mentorship, Tony expanded his martial arts arsenal, learning not just Muay Thai, but also Taekwondo, Judo, and Aikido, and discovered how to make his movements look powerful on screen. Unlike other martial artists who transitioned into acting later in life, Tony had been training for film performance since childhood. He learned to blend realism with cinematic flair. His commitment to doing his own stunts, without wires or CGI, made him a rarity in the industry. After years in the shadows, Tony's moment finally came, and when it did, it was explosive. Global breakthrough. In 2003, the release of Ong-Bak, Muay Thai warrior catapulted Tony Jaa from anonymous stuntman to international action star. The film was a revelation. Tony performed every stunt himself, without digital effects, harnesses, or stunt doubles. His acrobatic leaps, lightning-fast strikes, and brutal elbow and knee techniques electrified audiences. Ong-Bak redefined martial arts cinema, earning critical and commercial acclaim around the world. Tony was no longer a hidden talent, he had become the face of a new, raw, and realistic style of action filmmaking. He followed up with Tom Yum Goong, released in the US as The Protector, in 2005, pushing the boundaries of choreography even further. The film introduced a distinctive Muay Thai style inspired by elephant movements, culminating in an unforgettable 4-minute, single-take fight through a restaurant. This sequence cemented Tony's status as a master of sustained, high-impact action. His innovation began influencing major names in the genre. Donnie Yen, among others, credited Tony with inspiring him to step up his own game. With his popularity soaring, comparisons to legends like Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, and Jet Li became inevitable. Many believe Tony was the next global martial arts icon, capable of ushering in a gritty, grounded evolution of the genre. Hollywood began to take notice. Jackie Chan himself wanted Tony to appear in Rush Hour 3, a move that could have opened doors to major Western roles. But a scheduling conflict with Ong-Bak 2 forced Tony to decline, a missed opportunity that hinted at deeper issues behind the scenes. Behind closed doors. Despite his meteoric rise, Tony Jaa's career soon began to falter. Behind the camera, tensions were mounting. His relationship with mentor Punna Ridikrai, once the foundation of his career, began to deteriorate due to creative differences. Their clash eventually led to the cancellation of a high-profile project titled Sword, signaling a major rupture. Although neither party publicly addressed the fallout, the strain was obvious and marked a turning point for Tony's future. At the same time, Tony was becoming increasingly restricted by his long-standing contract with Sahamangkal Film, the Thai studio that had backed his career. The studio exerted complete control over his schedule, project choices, and even his earnings. While Ong-Bak and the Protector had turned him into a household name, Tony reaped little of the success's rewards. Bound by contractual limitations, he had minimal influence over his own path, and as Hollywood interest grew, he found himself unable to answer the call. Trapped in a system that limited his creative freedom, cut off from international opportunities, and distanced from the mentor who once guided him, the pressure on Tony began to mount. Eventually, it all became too much, and the cracks began to show. The production of Ong-Bak 2 became overwhelmingly demanding, so intense, in fact, that it reached an unbearable point. Tony Jaa, already starring in the film, had to take on the additional responsibility of directing, pushing his already overloaded schedule to the breaking point. But things only worsened from there. The production spiraled out of control, and it was soon reported that Tony had vanished from the set for several weeks. His absence fueled widespread rumors, with some suggesting he had suffered a breakdown. However, the real story went deeper. Feeling cornered and utterly exhausted, Tony sought refuge in a Buddhist monastery, stepping away from the chaotic world of filmmaking in search of inner peace. This sudden retreat disrupted the studio's plans, causing major delays and further complications in completing the film. Even after his return, the struggles persisted. Tony remained bound by a contract with Sahamangkal Film, a commitment that severely restricted his ability to take on bigger international projects. In 2013, he made a bold move to break free and regain his independence, but the studio wasn't willing to let go easily. They attempted to block his involvement in Fast and Furious 7, demanding up to $50 million as compensation for his release. The legal and financial entanglements placed him in a difficult situation, and as a result, he has not participated in any Thai productions since. Although he eventually landed roles in Western films, the damage had already been done. His career had lost momentum, and he struggled to recapture the global appeal that once defined him. With pressure mounting and his career teetering on the edge, Tony made a drastic choice that shocked both fans and industry insiders. He walked away from everything. The disappearance, becoming a monk. At the height of his fame, Tony Jaa made a surprising decision that caught both his fans and the film industry off guard. He stepped away from the limelight and entered monastic life. In 2010, following years of relentless physical performance, industry pressure, and a heated conflict with Sahamangkal Film, Tony withdrew from the cinematic world and sought solace in a Buddhist temple. For a period, the action star who had once amazed audiences with his daring stunts and intense combat scenes exchanged fight choreography for meditation and spiritual reflection. His sudden disappearance sparked widespread speculation. Some believed he had suffered a mental breakdown, while others thought he was simply trying to escape his contract's legal and financial constraints. In Thailand, however, temporarily becoming a monk is not uncommon. Ordination is often viewed as a way for men to find clarity, pay respect to their families, and reconnect with deeper values. For Tony, it seemed to serve as both a spiritual retreat and a personal escape. After years of being tethered to the film industry, the monastery offered a rare sense of liberation, free from contracts, fame, and expectations. During his time there, he adopted a disciplined lifestyle focused on meditation, prayer, and simplicity, embracing the teachings of Buddhism. While Tony never openly declared that his monastic retreat was a response to industry hardship, many believe that his troubled experience with Sahamangkal and the burdens of stardom played a major role in his decision. His disappearance left a noticeable void in the world of martial arts cinema. It heightened fans' cravings for more high-octane action and fueled ongoing speculation about his whereabouts. Some thought he had quit acting for good, while others believed he was preparing for a grand comeback. Meanwhile, the Thai film industry moved forward, and the powerful momentum Tony had built through Ong-Bak and Tom Yum Goong began to fade. International opportunities that might have elevated his career slipped away, and rising stars like Donnie Yen and Iko Uwais stepped into the spotlight in his absence. As the genre evolved, Tony's prolonged absence placed him at risk of being left behind. Eventually, after a long period of introspection, Tony decided to return to the film industry, but under changed circumstances. His once dominant star power had diminished significantly. Although his comeback was met with excitement, the landscape had shifted, and so had his trajectory. His time in the monastery brought him inner peace, but it also cost him precious years in a rapidly changing entertainment world. Re-entering the action genre proved to be more complicated than expected, and although he made his way back onto screens, he never quite reclaimed the legendary status he had previously enjoyed. Hollywood's call on a shift in direction. When Tony Jaa emerged from his monastic retreat, Hollywood was already knocking. His groundbreaking work in Ong-Bak and Tom Yum Goong had caught the attention of international filmmakers eager to bring his unique martial arts style to global audiences. Producers saw in Tony the potential for a new action icon, someone who could follow in the footsteps of Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, and Jet Li. His first significant Hollywood role came in Fast and Furious 7, 2015, where he shared the screen with Vin Diesel and Paul Walker. It was a high-profile introduction to Western audiences, but his role was relatively limited. Although his scenes, especially his intense fight with Paul Walker, were well received, fans noted that his full skill set wasn't properly showcased. Tony continued his Hollywood journey with XXX, Return of Xander Cage in 2017, joining a star-studded cast that included Vin Diesel and Donnie Yen. There was hope that this film would mark a turning point, but like his earlier effort, Tony found himself sidelined. The action sequences were stylized, lacking the raw, wire-free intensity that had defined his earlier work. Many fans felt that Hollywood didn't understand how to fully utilize his talents, often casting him in supporting roles where he was overshadowed by more prominent actors. Unlike Jackie Chan, who carved out a comedic and acrobatic niche, or Jet Li, who portrayed calm and enigmatic figures, Tony struggled to find a role that allowed his strengths to shine. A significant obstacle was language. Although Tony had mastered the physical side of performance, acting in English presented a new challenge. By 2014, he could conduct interviews in English, but many believed the language barrier still limited his opportunities. Hollywood action films often demand fast-talking, charismatic leads who can deliver lines with flair, an area where Tony lacked confidence. As a result, he was often given roles with minimal dialogue, relying mostly on physical presence and fight choreography to make an impact. Another major setback in his Hollywood aspirations was the long and difficult battle with Sahamangkal Film. The Thai studio held him under restrictive contracts for years, and although he finally freed himself in 2013, the conflict left lasting consequences. The studio made efforts to prevent him from portraying Tony Stark in Fast and Furious 7, even going so far as to demand $50 million in compensation. This legal conflict signaled a turning point, suggesting that Tony Jaa would no longer be a regular presence in Thai cinema, the very industry that had launched him into stardom. He went on to appear in films like Skin Trade, Never Back Down, No Surrender, and Triple Threat, but none of these matched the monumental success of Ong-Bak. While these roles gave him visibility, Hollywood never offered him the creative freedom or lead parts that might have established him as a true international martial arts icon. Despite the allure of global fame, the flame that once defined Tony Jaa's career began to dim, leaving fans questioning what had gone wrong. Tony Jaa's influence on martial arts cinema, however, remains indisputable. The release of Ong-Bak transformed the action film genre, setting a new standard for fight choreography and authentic stunt work. His electrifying technique, deeply rooted in traditional Muay Thai, introduced global audiences to a rawer, more visceral style of combat on screen. Even seasoned professionals like Donnie Yen acknowledged that Tony's arrival pushed them to elevate their own action scenes. His commitment to realistic, wire-free fight sequences helped him stand out in an era increasingly dominated by special effects and overly stylized choreography. For a time, Tony was seen as the natural successor to legends like Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan, with many believing he would lead martial arts cinema into a bold new chapter. Yet, his meteoric rise was soon met with setbacks. Contract disputes with Sahamangkal Film, the immense pressure of directing Ong-Bak 2, and a personal decision to retreat to a monastery all contributed to a loss of momentum in his career. Bound by restrictive contracts, Tony was unable to capitalize on his fame during its peak. By the time he managed to break free in 2013, the industry landscape had changed, and his opportunity had narrowed. Although he did eventually make his way to Hollywood, he never gained the same level of creative control that Bruce Lee had in Hong Kong or Jackie Chan enjoyed in Hollywood. Instead of crafting his own stories, Tony remained a supporting figure in others' visions, unable to fully define his cinematic legacy. In contrast to his predecessors, Tony Jaa's characters often lacked depth. Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan developed iconic alter egos that transcended the screen and entered popular culture. Tony's characters, however, often served as vehicles for action rather than storytelling. In Ong-Bak, one of his few memorable moments came when he simply stated his name and origin. In Tom Yum Goong, the plot revolved entirely around the search for a stolen elephant. Unlike Lee, who emphasized the philosophical reasons behind fighting, Tony focused on physical intensity and spectacle. This lack of emotional narrative made it difficult for him to connect with audiences beyond his impressive martial arts prowess, limiting his ability to branch into more diverse roles. Despite these challenges, Tony Jaa's contributions to the action genre remain significant. His fight scenes continue to be studied, his stunt work inspires choreographers, and his presence still shines as one of the most recognizable martial artists in film history. Yet the lingering question remains, had he been granted more freedom earlier in his career, could he have stepped into the shoes of Bruce Lee? Could Hollywood have better nurtured his talents to create a new torchbearer for martial arts cinema? While those questions may never be answered definitively, one thing is clear: Tony Jaa's journey may not have unfolded as fans once hoped, but his legacy in martial arts film will endure. What's your take? Did Tony Jaa get the recognition he truly deserved, or did his path take him toward a different kind of success? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this deep dive insightful, don't forget to like the video. And if martial arts and action films are your thing, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Stick around, up next is another jaw-dropping story from the world of action cinema. You won't believe what happened to this martial arts legend.